One of our upcoming events is our Solar Winery and Brew Tour, focusing on Women of Wine. This will be a really fun event, and tickets are on sale now. It'll be on July 15th, so just about a month away. And it's sure to be a really fun time, so get your tickets today. Now on to, and this event is also made possible by Energy Trust of Oregon, which is an independent nonprofit that helps to provide access to affordable energy throughout Oregon. We thank them for their sponsorship and in helping us put on great events like this one. For this webinar, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to put in any questions. At the end of the presentation, we will be using that to have our panelist Sarah help answer your questions. Now on to our panelists. Our first panelist was going to be Daniela Chansey, but she had something come up and is unable to join us today. She might be able to pop in later towards the end of this presentation, but we will see. But in the meantime, we have the wonderful Sarah Lundy here. Sarah is a mission-driven designer who has been working to positively impact her community by designing affordable housing for the past 7 years. She was a key member of MWA Architects design team for Cathedral Village, and her passion for user-focused design in the built environment is rooted in a decade of working with people in the field of education and medicine. When she's not working, Sarah spends time sewing, crafting, bicycling, backpacking, remodeling her home, and hanging out with her partner, dog, and 3-year-old kid. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here today. So now Sarah has a brief presentation about Cathedral Village and the process of designing that for us.
Thanks, Abigail. It's great to be here. All right, so as Abigail said, my name's Sarah Lundy. I'm with MWA Architects, and I'm here to talk about Cathedral Village. So MWA Architects is a firm that was founded in 1988 by Michael Willis in Oakland, California. We're a West Coast-based firm, and we serve the essential needs of the community through innovative, thoughtful, and respectful design. Each of our projects is thoughtfully responds to site context and serves as a foundation for community growth. We advocate for racial and socioeconomic equity by designing spaces where all people can live happier and healthier lives. And the majority of our housing projects are designed using sustainable programs, including the Earth Advantage multifamily housing program, Evergreen Sustainable Development Standards, LEED Enterprise Green Communities program, and additionally, we've committed to the AIA 2030 Challenge, and we have our JUST certification. So a little bit more about me. I've been with MWA for 5 years, working on mainly affordable housing. And as Abby said before, I love working on mission-driven projects that support the community, like Cathedral Village. So now a little bit about the project and how we integrated sustainability into the design of the project from the beginning, while also meeting the project's programmatic needs and the owner developer's goals. So Catholic Charities is the owner, Related Northwest is the developer. Portland Housing Bureau was one of our development partners, and the contractor was LMC Construction. So the goal was housing for low-income families with an AMI of 30 to 60%, as well as including some permanent supportive housing on site. This was done through 110 units for seniors and families, ranging from studios to 3-bedroom units. On-site services are to be provided, social worker, case management, as well as amenities. Vibe of Portland, which is a local nonprofit that provides affordable after-school art and music classes for children, partnered with us to provide the first music recording studio that they have, and it's located in the building. Sorry, motion sensor lights in the office. Just gonna have to deal with that. So in addition to that, Related Northwest and Catholic Charities really wanted there to be a teen lounge to focus on the family aspect of the residents, as well as the traditional community room and kind of outdoor grill area. There's a nature play area. So this is the site outlined in orange. You can see the Willamette River to the west, St. John's Bridge to the north, St. John's Town Center with transit and grocery to the northeast. The site is bordered by streets on 3 sides and then the railroad along the western edge. This is a formerly industrial area. You can see kind of this big manufacturing. This actually manufactures solar right here. It's a PV company. And then there's townhouses across the street, kind of more residential as you move up the hill into St. John's. But you can see Cathedral Park here. We've got train bridges on either side of the site, and then a rail yard just up the way. So looking at the site, we positioned the building to kind of optimize several things. One is acoustics from the train, 2 is solar access, and then the third one is kind of, we were using community design standards rather than putting the project through design review in order to save cost. So that cost would go directly to benefiting the residents rather than paying that upfront for design review. So there's a strict set of standards set aside by the city to follow. So this was one of our guidelines when designing the project. Additionally, we try to maximize comfort and usability of each of the spaces created. Through daylighting, we oriented the units in the shallow direction rather than deep direction as much as possible in order to maximize that daylight. And then we looked at super efficient MEP strategies that would passive and active that would fit within our budget. You can see here, we kind of, the streets being held at 3 sides by the building. Rail yard is down to the south where you can see that red dashed property line. And the oblique angle of Burlington is kind of looking at how we deal with that, and do we bringing it into kind of the entry area over here? Do we hold the corner? Do we step in at the corner? This is kind of a design exploration. Here's a plan that's further down the line, another kind of later iteration, close to the further design. This shows this interior courtyard that's created, that's got ample access to daylight and outdoors for the residents. There's stormwater retention in the center portion, and then all drought resistant, drought tolerant plantings. And the irrigation system is low volume and weather based in order to conserve water. So the materiality of the building was one of the big elements we could play with. We looked at box rib metal siding, which is vertical, and then brick. And both of those fall into requirements for non-fiber cement siding set aside by the Community Design Standards Zoning Code of Portland. And then they also kind of refer or reflect the railroad. So the box rib metal panel reflects the cargo containers that are brought past by the railroad. So that's kind of more of an aesthetic reference, but then the brick actually provided acoustical protection in our wall assemblies. So it's a really smart choice of material. Additionally, it's a local material. It's manufactured within 500 miles of the site by Mutual Materials. And it ties into the historical context of Portland, especially the red brick. So in addition to providing affordable housing units, we're interested in placemaking. So this is a pretty large building for the area. It's 4 stories along the waterfront. It's visible from the bridge, up the hill, and across the river. It's a short walk from Cathedral Park, which is where the Jazz Fest is held and several other events. And then we wanted to kind of speak to the historic working river context as well as the railroad in our design. And one of the ways that that came in was through materiality, which we previously discussed, and then also kind of these train car bays that we created. So to break up this really long 275-foot facade on Crawford, we looked at bays, and then rather than smaller bays, more frequent, we looked at larger rectangular bays that would reference the railroad and the train cars. Here's another iteration of the train car bay concept, and kind of attempts at activating or efforts to activate these long facades. This is a close to final rendering representing materials, location of those train car bays, facades. And then one additional important element of the design in relationship to solar is the flat roof. So the community design standards had strict height restrictions, and then also our development goal for number of units required a flat roof. So that's optimal for solar install, and we made the structure solar ready. So we didn't have the money to put in the solar panels, but we built the building strong enough to hold them, just in case we were able to acquire that funding. So sustainable elements, we work through the Earth Advantage multifamily program that I previously mentioned. Portland Housing Bureau and Earth Advantage run it. They set up an eco-charrette with the team where we defined our sustainability goals and our approach. For this project and for many affordable housing projects, it's a value-based approach where you consider short and long-term costs of all of the equipment and design moves that are made, and then the limitations of budget. And so the focus was on the 3 pillars of sustainability for Earth Advantage, which are energy reduction, water conservation, and air quality, health and well-being. So the team checks in at each milestone to confirm and track progress. And through kind of optimizing equipment that we would already need to run the building, such as lighting and mechanical, we were able to achieve a 31% improvement on energy performance over the baseline code. Kind of further highlighting our sustainability moves in the project. So the site is in an industrial area. So we did do geotech, did some bores, and got some soil samples, and nothing unexpected was found. But then when excavation of the parking area began, we found tons of organic material and contaminated soil that needed to be removed. So this was a really big cost to the project and kind of limited some other moves we were going to make, but is absolutely necessary. Additionally, reusing a site like this, I think it's great to be the one to have turned it from contaminated to remediated. As you can see in this photo, the rail line is just beyond that, that fence. Mechanical approach. So we have whole building ventilation supply driven without recovery. So that's the DOAS system. We have air sourced heat pumps for the common areas. And then all of it's got MERV 13 air filters. So MERV 8 is required, but because of the fires, the wildfires in 2020, the owner was very concerned about air quality for the tenants and really wanted to push that to MERV 13. So we were able to do that. Electrical, we've got Energy Star lighting and appliances. Plumbing, we've got high efficiency gas condensing water heaters and low flow plumbing fixtures. And then for solar, Related Northwest was able to secure grant funding. So we were able to provide it. And we installed a 128 kilowatt system with about 136 megawatt hours of anticipated annual production. And as you can see, we've that big flat roof with total open solar access, southern access for solar. We fit 320 PV modules and 2 inverters. And then here we have the as-built energy modeling results from Earth Advantage. So it's super great. They show you, they do all of the hard work for you as far as the energy modeling and tallying up all your points. And they really help you figure out what things you can take advantage of and what might be trickier to pursue. So the total energy savings of the project was increased by 10% through the addition of solar. This is really great that we could add that. Domestic hot water, we had a 47% savings with the use of the condensing water heater and the low flow plumbing fixtures. And then for lighting design, we were able to decrease energy use by 70% through LED and efficient task lighting. Here's the final product. These images highlight the material selection and the variations in texture that they create. The dark brick reflects the light at sunset, as you can see, as well as the vertical box rib metal panel, which again is kind of referencing those cargo containers from the railroad, but then also is adding a little bit of shine and sparkle for the project. There's a photo inside a unit. All of the southern facing units have views of the river and some of the bridge. This is a kitchen, very ample space and cabinetry. And this is actually a resident family that wanted to take part in the marketing photos. So it was pretty cool to actually have people who live there participating in the marketing efforts. Additionally, we've got the ground floor offices for building management and on-site social services. There's the Vibe music recording studio. It's adjacent to the teen lounge, which is right across the hall from the community room, which has a full kitchen for resident use. And that's attached to the courtyard outside. The courtyard, in addition to the grill area, which is just outside the community room, there's a nature play area and ample seating with views to the bridge and the river. One unique aspect of this project was that Related Northwest was able to win a grant to commission murals. So local artists, Icho and Jeremy Nichols, who has Plastic Birdie, they teamed up with Related and they were able to come up with these jazz and music inspired murals that also reference the flora and fauna of Forest Park across the way and kind of add a lot of vibrancy to the pedestrian experience of this area. And probably great for residents to tell people I live in the building with the murals on it. So this is how we incorporated sustainability into our design process for Cathedral Village. We're very proud of this project and the fact that we were able to secure solar. Related Northwest really worked with Catholic Charities and PHB and the whole team to make this happen, and they were a great partner for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I love getting that hint into the design process and hearing more about, I mean, I feel like I drive past new builds and new buildings all the time, and I don't think about, oh, this was inspired by the railway across the way and by the brick and everything like that. So it's really cool getting to see that and makes me want to like think more critically about the buildings I'm passing and think about maybe what elements inspired it. Sorry about that. I was just getting your presentation down. So now I have some questions prepped for you, and we will go over them. And if anyone else thinks of questions that they would like to ask, feel free to drop them down in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. No need to wait till when I call for those. You can just put them in at any point, and we will go through them. My first question is, what were some of the challenges and successes of this project? Now you talk a little bit about the you figured out it was a contaminated site, but were there any other challenges and things that made the site particularly challenging, or anything else that you viewed as a really big success?
Well, so this project was designed, sorry, my dog is here.
No worries.
This project was designed pre-COVID, and so permitting happened during the first year of the pandemic. And during that year, we experienced wildfires in Portland. There was just like a lot of supply chain issues, and then those heat waves that we had. Yeah. Dylan. Oh boy. So yeah, we had supply chain issues. It was really hard to get a lot of the things that had been spec'd. The cost of construction kind of skyrocketed. Everything was kind of in a building frenzy, and trying to get a hold of like medicine cabinets for the bathrooms was very challenging, stuff like that. As far as the site, I do think that that area, there was some additional security that was needed, but that often happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's a ton of issues, even just getting simple building materials like plywood during the pandemic. So that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like I didn't hear about the more specific things like medicine cabinets. So that's interesting to hear.
Yeah, it really put the pressure on the contractor and the owner to
Mhm.
figure all that stuff out,
Yeah,
and the
absolutely. I
architect
can
as well.
imagine.
Yeah.
Were you primarily, how long did the project take to build from like, I guess that's kind of a hard question because you had COVID in the middle of it, but
Yeah, so we went in for permit at the end of 2020 and construction began in January, I think we secured a permit kind of close to the end of 2020 and construction began like demolition
Mhm.
in January of 2021.
Got
And
it.
it was
Okay.
completion in fall of 2022.
Okay.
So a year and a half roughly.
Yeah, makes sense. Were there any state or local level policies that impeded this project or made it feel more difficult?
I think there was a lot of requirements from PBOT.
Mhm.
That's more local, and then
Yeah.
the Earth Advantage is an Oregon
Hmm.
uh, organization, and it's kind of based in Oregon specific, um, from what I understand. At least I think Oregon's really adopted them.
Hmm.
So that working with PHB, that was kind of the PHB route that they wanted to do, the Portland Housing Bureau. So other than that, I mean, Portland has great affordable housing policies. I know we have other projects in other jurisdictions where they
Hmm.
don't, and they're kind of fighting tooth and nail to
Yeah.
prevent the affordable housing from going in.
Hmm.
But Portland, I think it was great to partner with Portland Housing Bureau, and they really wanted this project to go through. So everybody was really on board.
That's awesome. Um, a common issue with having solar on apartment buildings is the split benefits. I know you said that the solar was funded through a grant, but the split benefit issue is the fact that the builder or developer has to pay for putting on the solar, yet the residents are usually the ones who get the benefit of it with the decreased electrical costs. How did you address this issue, or how was the solar used to try and prevent this issue?
Well, so I think something that's different about a lot of the affordable nonprofits that we work
Hmm.
with is they're paying for this, but then they're paying to own it.
Okay.
So Catholic Charities owns and operates the
Hmm.
property. Related was the developer working for them to make it
Hmm.
happen. But so everybody's really invested in the outcome. You're not building to sell it. So I think that in that case, having that solar makes operation cheaper. They can charge less rent to residents. It's kind of a direct benefit there. I'm pretty sure residents do not have utility bills. There's not 110 electrical meters on the building. So
Got it. So they're
yeah.
all on one, utilities are built into their rents, and that way they can offset the solar use within it, from your understanding.
Yeah, and then affordable housing owners are typically building to own rather
Hmm.
than building to sell. So
Yes.
they are invested in the
Are
energy
all the
use.
units in the building affordable housing, or is it split at a certain percentage?
It's 100% affordable. There's a percentage of them that are at 30%, reserved for 30% AMI,
Hmm.
and then the rest are 60% AMI. So everybody's making like 30% the median income or 60% the median income. And
Got it.
some of the units are permanent supportive housing as well. So for people transitioning out of homelessness.
Okay, that's really cool. Um, so I know we already talked a little bit about that. This project was developed and run by the Catholic Charities of Oregon. Was there any other community involvement, and what was the community response to this project?
So I know that sometimes there's like community outreach that happens.
Hmm.
I came on a little bit later in the project. Like I think I came at the end of schematic design.
Hmm.
So I can't speak to the original outreach that was done. But I think partnering with Vibe was a really good move, and kind of that's already a nonprofit that's in tune with people's families who are using that service and benefiting from that. And then Catholic Charities has various properties and does conduct outreach at other ones. Community response, I don't think we got any pushback from any of the neighbors. It is kind of on the edge of a residential neighborhood. You're basically on the edge of St. John's at the
Yeah.
river. So
Okay. One of the questions from one of our participants is, are all the units occupied, do you know, as of now? And were the residents involved in any of the decision making around the solar or design elements if there were people who were like set ready to move in?
so no, everything was designed before they moved in. Um, people were moving in before the building was completely done, which is pretty standard for affordable housing. So yeah, no, I believe it's fully occupied. There was already, I think, like a quarter occupied before, like, the stairs were finished being painted, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a great need, and I think this was a pretty sought after spot for people.
Yeah. There's definitely a need for affordable housing. I've read a number of articles about that in Portland, so it makes sense that people were eager to move in when this was being developed. You mentioned that some of the materials used were brick and then also the flat roof, which definitely helped for the solar. How did that work with the natural elements of Oregon? Brick is known to not be the most earthquake safe, and a flat roof with rain, how are those impacts mitigated?
So brick in Oregon, if it's installed on a new building, it's on a rain screen system. So you actually have a 2-inch air gap behind the brick, and everything is supported completely independent of, you've got your building structure, which is it's by itself. The brick is just a veneer. It's 2 inches thick, 3 inches thick. It looks like an actual brick, but it's being used as a veneer and a siding material rather than a structural support. So there's
Got it.
steel in there, steel angles supporting, every floor level. The bottom floor levels supported for, I think you can go up to 20 feet with a concrete ledger at the bottom. And then the flat roof, we've got internal drainage, and there are scupper boxes all along the courtyard. So you're actually directing all that water from the roof. There's a slope down to the courtyard, and the courtyard we use to mitigate that stormwater.
Awesome. So then is the courtyard, does it have a garden or anything that's watered by the stormwater throughout the winter?
Well, so everything has to go to the stormwater retention facility in
Okay.
order, because otherwise it's considered, I think you have to remediate it prior to using it for irrigation. So there's no
Got it.
gray water system for that, but it is, and it has to be completely covered until it gets into the stormwater facility. So there's lots of grading, and that was a huge consideration, kind of getting everything to that central stormwater facility. And then the irrigation is completely separate. But yeah, we do have, I can show you in the presentation maybe. Um, that central stormwater area. Okay. Sorry, here we go.
No worries, take your time.
All right, let me share that now. Here we go. So yeah, right here, you can see all of the scupper boxes are kind of directing down to downspouts, which then connect into all the ones along the courtyard here, connect to this central stormwater planter, which is that kind of inlet angle with benches along it. And then you can see plantings all along that edge there. This is a nature play area. with kind of logs and wood chips. The grading, there's like a slide that goes all the way across. There's a fairy garden under the tree at the end, which one of the owners felt really passionate about, which is really fun to include. So
That's awesome. I love the amount of green space included and having both the outside courtyard and a space for the children. That must be awesome for the residents.
yeah, I think it provides good eyes on the play area. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you could be in your unit and kids could be outside playing, and it's relatively safe and
Yeah.
contained area.
Mm-hmm. Community safety, community support as well.
Yeah.
One of our participants asked, from your understanding, utilities are included in the rent and there's just a single meter for each utility rather than everything being billed separately.
I believe so. I think that typically in these facilities, I think water use might be metered and watched more carefully just because sometimes faucets get left on and
Mm-hmm.
apartments flood in affordable housing. It can happen. Um, in this population that is moving in here, there's no floor drains or anything in like the bathrooms, so it's not quite as expected. But yeah, for electricity, um, it was whole house from my understanding.
Awesome. This Cathedral Village was meant to be a catalyst project for St. John's. Do you know if any other projects have begun in the area? And if they are they following Cathedral Village's lead in taking steps to be more sustainable?
So this was kind of on the edge of town, kind
Mm-hmm.
of redeveloping basically vacant, unused space. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure. I know that there's lots of market rate housing in the St. John's Town Center. And then
Mm-hmm.
we actually did a remodel of Shrunk Tower, which
Mm-hmm.
and installed a mural on that one as well, which is in St. John's. So I can't really speak to any future projects that have been happening, but I do know that there are several empty lots in the area.
Okay.
So along here, I know
Mm-hmm.
that the contractors use this lot for staging. I imagine this is possibly owned by the city because it is waterfront property, but we'll see.
Yes, that would make sense. Maybe one day we'll see the waterfront property turned into a park or something,
That would be
and we can all
great.
enjoy the river.
Yes.
Did you have to take any additional steps for noise consideration with the railroad right there?
Yes, it was a really big deal. So that's brick, it comes at high cost, but
Mm-hmm.
it was really worth it for this project. So the railroad is along that west/south kind of
Mm-hmm.
facing property line right there. So we had an STC, really high STC rating for the exterior walls along this end, all along the courtyard, and then along this end especially. So the two kind of ends of the building that were closer to the rail line were
Mm-hmm.
the ones that got, we made sure to really beef up, and any area, any siding in that location that was not brick got additional resilient channel and other acoustical mitigation components put into the wall assemblies.
That makes sense. Um, Going back to the question about utilities, do you know if each unit has its own water and space heating or if that is provided communally?
That is provided communally. There's a room of water heaters. You can actually see this configuration got changed a little bit, but
Mhm.
it's right down here in the basement. So
Okay.
yeah.
Your dog just wants to be included. This is
Well,
his time to get famous.
I don't know if you know where the MWA office is, but it's right next to the Revolution Hall Dog Park. So
Okay. He's just anxious for his nighttime walk then.
yeah.
What are steps you think the design and development communities can take to help more green and eco-friendly apartment buildings become the norm?
Well, I think that code changes are pushing us more and more towards that. I know Washington just had a code update, and the 2021 Energy Code is pretty pretty stringent, which is great. I think with this one, it was a matter of you're already going to be installing a mechanical system. You're already going to be installing water heaters and lights. Like taking those extra steps and finding the money to make those the energy efficient or water conserving version is kind of the first step, I think.
Do you
And
know if those, oh, sorry, continue.
on a lot of our projects, we do design the roof to be solar ready. And usually it is a component that you don't know if you're going to get funding for that or not. Because a lot of these projects have some sort of government funding because of their affordable nature.
Apologies. That makes sense. Do you know if those energy efficient features you add increase the cost of the development very much, or if they're about on par for the same,
Oh, yeah.
not materials, but features, not energy efficiently?
Yeah, so I think that they definitely boost the initial cost, but I think that if you're building to own the building, it's kind of a, you know, there's the life cycle cost, and then there is, which is how much is this gonna, when will you make up the money that you spent buying the item and energy bills down the line?
Got it.
So like a 70% savings for lighting, you know, per light fixture, you're paying more upfront, but then that's 70% you're probably going to see pretty soon. And I believe the energy modeling here, I think these are totals, but some of them they break down by year, like the production of solar. So.
Do you know how much of the annual production the solar covers? I know that says plus or minus 136.7 megawatts. Do you know how like much electricity annually the building's expected to use and how much it covers?
Well, so this is in BTUs and that's in megawatts. So I don't, I don't know exactly, but I do know that overall we're getting like, so pre-renewables, we were 21% over baseline code as far as kind of energy performance, and we've boosted that by 10% almost, adding the renewables, which is the solar.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So that would be like 30% more efficient than the baseline code indicates you should be. Is that the correct understanding?
Yes.
Okay, really cool. Do you think there are any lessons from Cathedral Village that other projects can learn?
I think that judging those costs and looking at what will benefit both the organization that's owning as well as the residents in the long run. So I think items like that play area with the cost of with the pandemic, things got super expensive. I think some of these logs were an exorbitant amount of money by the time they went in. But and the play equipment, like everything, but you know, those are actually, I think that's that family that was in that 3-bedroom unit. They were actually found the photographer when they were walking around, said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And then went up to the unit with them. They live in a different unit and to be photographed. So I think there is a benefit. You know, the outdoor grill, items like that, I think really benefit the residents quite a bit. And they're ultimately the cost of that is not super high. So allowing that amenity budget, engaging with community partners like Vibe to kind of activate that common space beyond just, oh, that's a room that maybe teenagers could use. Kind of putting classes there, really making it a vibrant and part of the community. I think little things like that are important. Or
That's
even
great.
researching like mural grants, stuff like that. Kind of going above and beyond to activate.
Yeah, I had no idea about the murals, and it's so cool that they've worked with another nonprofit to have that music studio and music lesson space there. That must be really great for a community and just for that business to have a permanent or near permanent residence for itself without having to worry about it. Must be a huge improvement for them.
Yeah.
Um, mhm. One final question, and then I will just thank everyone for attending. But do you think it is possible for community members to advocate for greener apartments, either within their own building or within their community? And if so, what are some steps they can take to try and do so?
Well, I think that more and more there's the idea that when you're doing something for a community, you should be engaging with that community. So
Mhm.
not just saying, I think that this community needs this, actually having community members speak out and advocate for themselves. So I think that that's something that should be happening more, especially with affordable housing. Sorry,
No
we got
worries.
a chatty guy. Um, so I think that that's something that is really important, and I think giving a voice to the people that are actually going to be occupying these spaces, and then conducting, even if they didn't get a voice initially, conducting that post-occupancy evaluation to
Mhm.
see, how does this work? There is in the community room, there's a screen that reports the kind of activity of the solar panels on the roof. And I think that it's probably something that a lot of people are like, hey, what's that? Tell me about this screen. What does this mean? So that's kind of one way, those active visual components to kind of nobody goes on the roof. You can't really see it unless you're up the
Mhm.
hill. Kind of bringing that into the space and into people's awareness is
Yeah.
important.
That's super cool and it's great. I know I've seen some of the diagrams before for buildings about like how much the solar panels are generating when you get to see that report of like, oh, it's cloudy out, but the solar panels are still generating this much power. That's really cool. So it's cool
Yeah,
they give the residents access to that through the community room. I'd love to know that.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sarah. I really appreciate you making the time and presenting and telling us so much about this project. And thank you, everyone who has attended this evening. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and I hope to see you at another event soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Abby. Thanks, everybody. It was great to be
Thank you.
here. Thank you, Solar
Thank
Oregon.
you. Of course. Thank you, and have a great night. Enjoy walking your dog.
Thank you. I think he's ready. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.